Echidna Escapades. Because work takes us to the city, we are weekend bushies. While we're away, our block provides food and shelter for many indigenous birds and animals, and also some safety from feral cats and foxes. Because of the city's rapid encroachment, for some years no one had sighted any of our larger native animals. Then gradually the miracle happened. At long last, we heard a koala's piggy growl issue from our trees and glimpsed wombats, possums, and at dusk, little sugar gliders. Much as we hate blackberry for the total pest that it is, we allow it to flourish along our fences as it offers some natural protection for weaker animals. We've always avoided bringing dogs and cats to our block because they tend to view any native animal as fair game. But all our neighbours are great dog lovers. They argue that their dogs provide defence from break-ins and theft. This came to mind 6 months ago when we heard loud barking at the southern end of our block, signalling that something serious was happening. We raced outside to find our neighbour's young Labrador trying to turn an echidna onto its back. The poor animal had been crawling into some blackberry bushes to try and get back into its burrow. All this commotion brought the Labrador's owner outside, but trying to pull the dog away from the echidna was like prizing a lollipop out of a toddler's hands. Though the dog showed surprising strength and determination, we joined forces to drag it away. When we eventually succeeded, the echidna was totally exhausted. How hurt was it? A young Labrador has sharp teeth and sharper claws. Rather than upset the echidna any further, the Labrador was locked inside the house, and we pushed more blackberry over the burrow in a feeble attempt to keep the dog away. Next day there was no sign of the little animal, so we figure it had crawled away to die. So you can imagine our delight last week when we sighted a small prickly creature scuttling alongside our fence. Happily, the offending Labrador now lives elsewhere. Squatters. Weekend bushies, we encourage any bees who live around here to work hard pollinating our 4 apple, 2 pear and 3 plum trees so we have plenty of fruit every summer to eat, freeze and give away. Much like other migratory workers, some years the bees are more productive than others. They have to cope with invading European wasps and the vagaries of Victorian weather. Sometimes they find neighbouring properties more tempting. Their habits seem to lie more in the lap of the gods than anything we can expect or predict. So on the whole, we leave each other strictly alone. Our first unfortunate encounter, however, was when they decided to squat in an old air conditioner on the side of our house. To them it seemed a perfect place to set up a hive. From there it was only a wing's flutter into the house. No way could we persuade them to move. All we could do was spray the hive with insect repellent and deplore the inevitable genocide. The following weekend we returned to find a house littered with tiny black corpses. We mourned the loss of the hive, blocked up that old air conditioner and hoped this wouldn't happen again. No such luck. The bees have decided to use our premises again. This time they're squatting in our roof. All summer we watched them fly in and out. Their next step, we know, is to penetrate our ceiling via one of our air vents. But this air vent is right above our shower. Though I love bees for all their hard work and for making honey, I don't fancy bathing with them. Having them squat up there above me makes me decidedly nervous. We hate the idea of killing them, but when we called in an expert, it seemed that our roof is too flat to do anything but destroy the hive. So far, we've done nothing except keep a wary eye on their activities. If only there was some other way to persuade our squatters to leave. Road Hoonery. In our part of the world, we locals are about as different as chalk and cheese, except for one shared dislike. Once labelled coastal village and rural, I'm now told that we are to be repackaged as urban renewal. This is because so many of our old farmhouses and holiday shacks are either being pulled down or remorphed into grand and grander mansions. While we may now be considered as almost urban, the truth is that most of our streets are private and unpaved. Thus, topping everyone's list of pet hates are those hoons who speed along our roads in their cars and on their motorbikes, raising dust and leaving in their wake potholes, bumps and ruined drains. Apart from the nuisance value and the danger to unwary pedestrians, there's the constant worry of having to top and grade and then making sure all the neighbours share in the expense. Our house is sited along one of the quieter roads, a street flanked by bracken, eucalypt and fern. Koalas, echidnas, birds and even the odd wombat live amongst our verges, but we've always had trouble ensuring that our road remains a pleasant nature reserve. Some 20 years ago, our shire decided that what we really needed was a proper bitumen road. What's more, our shire assumed that we'd be only too happy to pay for this ourselves. If we didn't fork up immediately, accumulated interest would be offset against any future sale. Of course, we objected and objected and objected. But no one took any notice until we settled in front of some bulldozers and waited for them to go away. Thankfully, good can come out of bad. As a result, many of our neighbours got to know each other, often becoming lifelong friends. Since, we've remained on red alert in case something like this occurs again. Thank God we live in a democracy. But if this hoonery gets too much, one day I can see this happening again. So, apart from hanging and quartering, can anyone suggest another way of keeping road hoons away? Foreshore Fantastics. In this part of the world, our foreshore reserves have always aroused the kind of profound emotion usually associated with matters of the heart. I suppose there's always the fear that one day, as in many parts of Europe, our beaches and any adjoining land will be forbidden to anyone who can't afford to enter them. At the same time, some of our silvertails believe any unbuilt ground between them and the beach is for their sole use. We can always tell when an owner believes this by the way he poisons, cuts, chops, mows and whippersnips to improve his view. Committees made up of interested residents run foreshores down our way. Apart from the usual jokes about committees and camels, there are often large differences of opinion as to how this should be done. It's general gossip that the foreshore committee of a neighbouring village argued so fast and so hard, certain members were openly bullied. Others created enmities that may last for life. Another neighbouring foreshore committee has many members, all willing to turn up to meetings. Unfortunately, few are prepared to actually weed, plant, or clean up after careless visitors. Our own foreshore has been the subject of much soul-searching when it became apparent that some of the beloved trees that fringed it were dying and had to be cut down. Some of our locals openly threatened to tie themselves to targeted trees. Not that I actually saw anyone do this, but a threat is still a threat. Meanwhile, other things keep happening. Recently, certain unknown visitors have taken to raping and pillaging our green wheelie bins and using them as barbecues. Melted down, we can only tell how many by their leftover wheels. Just imagine how awful they must smell when it begins to melt. Even harder to imagine what a chop or a sausage would taste like. Chop plastique, sausage a la wheelie bin? So I wonder if foreshores can be compared to the world in general. As long as we have this much dissent, can we really expect for anything to improve and for the barbarians not to take over?